So if none of them is checked, that means what? If none of them is checked, that means what? There is an error. Now, the error you can use, I'm going to use the message box here, because if you look at the form, you can put an error provider on all of them, okay? But to avoid doing that, we'll just put a message box and set the error to what? To true. So if you go back in here, we say error, not error provider, error flag equal to what? Equal to true. And then what? We say message box, please check one service, one at least, okay? Or at least one. Okay? Now, I'm going to make it the style for the message box. If you put the comma after the text, you will get these options. If you want to display a message box with the X, with the error sign, you use critical. Okay? So that's the end of the validation, because we have only two validations. The first part of the validation, the second part of the validations, and then when we exit from here, from this part, when we reach this point, then what happens? We either have an error or we don't have an error. If we have an error, how do we know we have an error? We look at the error flag, because we started with false, and the only time it changes to true if we have an error here or if we have an error here. So if the value changes from false to true, that means what? It means that it changed to true. That means we have an error. Okay? So before we do the processing, the calculation, we need to check, do we have an error? If we don't have an error, we do the processing. If we do have an error, we clear the result that is on the form. So how do we say that? We say if error flag equal false, then we do the following. Now this end F is in the wrong place, so I'm going to control X. All this processing belong to what? Belong to the F. So if we don't have an error, no error exists, then we do the processing. You got the idea? Now else, what? Else we do label total dot text equal to what? Equal to blank. So we clear it. Clear? Now let's see if it works. If we don't do anything, if we don't check anything, and we don't do that, first we will get a message box. It says please check at least one. And do you see this X? That's because we say the style is critical. Okay? And I have to enter a name. Here is the error validation, says name cannot be blank. Now if we fix this error and then we hit total, that error is gone, but we still need to check at least one. Still no result. If I check one and hit total, I will get the result. You got the idea? Now if I remove this, notice what will happen. When I click on total, I will get the error, name cannot be blank, and the result is clear because we have an error. Any question? Alright, so this is the end of it. When we're doing the validation, when we're doing processing, any time we're doing a processing, there's 3 steps that we have to do. Okay? First, the first step is that we do the declarations and clear all the errors that we have. Second, we do the validations of all the validations that we have. If we have to validate number, we use the is numeric. If it's text, this for simple validation, we use this. If It is if it is for checkboxes, you can use this method. Okay, there are other ways to do it. So that is the validation process. Now after that, if there is no errors on the form, what we do the processing. Okay, this applies to any application, not just the one that I just showed you with the checkboxes. If we have an application without the checkboxes, you still use the same steps. Okay, we are done for this exercise. Okay.